Morning, and thank you for your compliments. Got a nice text here saying, great show, Cristo and Paul, very balanced and informative. Well, I think it's good that you get the context of this stuff, and when it comes to all of this. Okay, Elton John has also said in the past that Brits didn't know what they voted for in the 2016 referendum, like he was some expert on the pros and cons of being in the EU. He didn't explain anything, it was just another outburst from a self-important celebrity. In music, he's Elton John, but in politics, he's Reginald Dwight, says Mick in Stoke. Oh, Mick, I love how scathing you are. That is great. Is Paul Britton for real?
What have I said?
Says Adrian.
Oh, here we go.
Who is the hypocrite? Braverman's speech was not telling celebrities to shut up, as Paul puts it, but rather was laying out the consequences of what her border policies are and asking whether, because they're celebrities, they should be shielded from the effects that the rest of us are not, says Adrian.
Being a celebrity, unfortunately, is not a protected characteristic, so they can't claim any form of discrimination. But look, everybody should be treated the same, whether it doesn't matter where you come from or where you live or what you've done in a career. I think it's just very important that everybody has the opportunity to voice their opinions.
Let's talk about HS2 and Rishi.
Okay.
He refuses to say. I mean, whoever thought it was a good idea to have the Conservative Party conference in Manchester while there is a controversy about HS2 going to Manchester? It was really, really stupid, I have to say.
Yes, but HS2 is an important project, and I think what politicians need to turn their focus to is infrastructure in this country and how we are going to get around from A to B. And cutting the spending on HS2, I mean, in my opinion, there should be more high-speed train lines in this country and taking people off the roads and giving us a reason to get off the roads, because congestion is just mad when I drive.
But
2 hours to get from Brighton to central London.
But there are some people. By the way, I happen to fundamentally agree with you. I think get out the bulldozers and build HS2.
Absolutely.
And when they are offering us infrastructure,
China does it. The States did it under Trump.
I completely agree. It's ridiculous, and it's not about the speed of getting to these places, which seems to be what is wheeled out quite often. It's the capacity. We cannot run any more trains on our Victorian infrastructure.
No.
However much you upgrade them, you need to basically increase capacity. And this is a project that will last 100 years. Do you know what I mean? This is something that we're going to have to do at some point.
It is capacity. I mean, I got on the Elizabeth line the other day. It's packed.
Yeah.
I mean, we've just built it.
And it's packed.
It doesn't go to show. I mean, it is a very nice line. I'm sure it attracts more commuters to that line, and they will take that route as opposed to other routes. Yeah,
but the reason is because we do not have the capacity. So, but there are going to be some people who will say, well, hang on, the billions that this is costing.
It's got a cost. It's 19 billion for HS2, apparently.
Yeah, but the fact is that people were promised it wouldn't cost that amount of money. And the issue that we have here in the UK is that when it comes to the cost of infrastructure, we are a basket case. Like the Elizabeth line, you're right, great success when it comes to capacity now, but what was it, 4 years late, billions over budget?
And every project seems to be like that. The M25,
why?
It doesn't matter what it is. Well, it's career politicians as opposed to anybody with any real skill.
So there are a lot of people that would say, well, hang on, you've sort of forgone the right to... You forego the right to have HS2 because it cannot be delivered in a cost-effective way for the taxpayer. What would you say to people who say that?
I don't know what the difference is between now, where we're at now with it, and finishing it, but I have seen the promises that Rishi has made to pull back on HS2, and it's things like £700 million to improve the bus network, but not just in London but across the country. He's given 20 million to towns and cities over the next 10 years, and I just wonder what the cost of this is compared to actually just finishing that project. You can't start a project like that and not finish it.
I agree, and also I think it should be... Well,
and people complain about the cost, but we do always seem to find the money.
And also, we should have built it in the north first.
Yeah.
We should have started up there.
And it's just typical that London always takes...
Because we're going to end up with a third line between London and Birmingham.
Yeah.
The only line that already had two lines going there, the only two cities that had two lines going to them, which is London and Birmingham, we're now going to end up with a third one.
Yeah.
Which is just absolutely pointless. go up to Manchester, go to Leeds, go to Sheffield, go to Hull, and go to across the Pennines.
But we need to do what China does and have super high-speed rail connecting Edinburgh, Glasgow,
Yes,
London,
go up to Scotland with it.
Manchester, Leeds, and not 70 miles an hour, 100. You know, they need to be like the bullet trains. They need to really be getting up to 200 miles an hour.
They were going to do it on high-speed 3, weren't they? Which was going to be Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield. No, Leeds, Manchester, Sheffield.
Okay.
But, I mean, you could do that or make it part of high-speed 2 or whatever.
Oh, in this country, we're very lucky. Everything is actually very close to each other. If you had a 200,
so
if you had a 200 miles an
unbelievable.
hour bullet train, you'd go from Manchester to London in an hour,
Yeah, but I don't...
and that makes it commutable. But now I go from Brighton to London in an hour.
But that must cost you a fortune.
Not really. I mean, between £21 and £30.
Each way.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Is it? Well, think of what it'd be in the car when you're taking congestion charge, when you're taking lost time, as a lawyer, lost time.
Because to me, that is an astronomical amount of money for people to be paying.
I can
to
also work on the train. I can be productive. They're very comfortable. And they are, for all intents and purposes, quite reliable. You know, other than strike days, they run on time.
Because, you know, you're absolutely right when it comes to... I mean, we're just a basket case with our rail. We are an absolute basket case when it comes to our rail.
But also the M25, you know, they've just widened it, and I sat in traffic all the way around it yesterday, and it was actually quicker. So I come up from Brighton, and it's quicker to go all the way around clockwise to almost Buckinghamshire and then come in that way rather than straight across town.
Because of the congestion.
Because it's just, traffic lights, roundabouts, 20-mile-an-hour zones.
But they could sort all of that out so quickly. Also, if
it's almost like they don't want to.
Well, of course they don't, because what they're doing is they're penalising you for driving without offering you the alternative. If we had high-speed rail everywhere, if we had, really, really cost-effective public transport, if we had a railway that was so cheap it becomes a no-brainer to use it.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, we're going to penalise you for using your car. I'd go, OK, well, look, I get the logic. You've offered us a really great alternative. Yeah. You've offered us an alternative that's cheaper. Fine, penalise me a bit within reason if there is really good alternatives for using my car. But they don't do it that way. They do it the other way. At the moment, in order for me to get back to see my parents, and this is always my example, the easiest way to get out to Hertfordshire to see my parents, which I like to do on a Sunday sometimes, is on the Thameslink line. The Thameslink line, I mean, that's a new word for misery. It really is. And also...
But what's miserable about it? The quality of the train, the timings, the length?
When it runs well, it's brilliant.
Okay.
But it never runs at weekends.
Okay.
They're always...
But is it packed? Is it filthy?
Well, I get on down at... it's quite dirty. I mean, the toilets are hideous, always. I get on they've been overhauling it since as long as I can remember. They had a project where they rebuilt London Bridge for the Thameslink, and that was called Thameslink 2000. And they're still doing it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not Thameslink 2000. It's going to be Thameslink 3000 at this rate.
2050.
And they always then just... Any occasion where you might want to use it, i.e. Sundays, bank holidays, Mother's Day, they always don't run it. It's always not running. It's a 2.5-hour replacement bus service with 3 changes. So, of course, you're just going to drive.
Yeah.
You're just going to drive.
Yeah. Well, for Brighton Pride this year in Brighton, it was they didn't run the trains to Brighton because they said of overcrowding.
I thought it was because there was a strike.
No, it was overcrowded and they stopped at 3 bridges or something, and then everyone just got on a bus or got taxis. It's great for taxis.
Oh, my... It's just unbelievable to me. The other thing as well, which is unbelievable to me, is staff shortages. They're constantly never running stuff because they say they don't have the staff. I mean, were they not expecting the train to turn up?
We need more skilled immigration, don't we,
No, or we train the people here to do it. Why wait for the skilled immigration when we could train people? This is the other issue that we have here in the UK.
This is a great scope that we're opening up
No,
now.
but it's true.
Let's get everybody off the welfare. We'll force them to work and earn their money.
We
upskill.
For too long in this country, we have thought that the alternative to having to work that requires specific training or is unskilled, we import it. Because we are obsessed with academia in this country, and if you are someone who is not seen as academic, you are left on the scrap heap. And that is what we do in this country. And then those people and then when we need things like plumbers, when we need things like people who work on the railways, when we need people...
Well, look, the government have rolled out so many apprenticeship schemes for people that don't want to get academics. So I almost don't agree. As a law firm,
it's getting better.
We use apprentices. We've probably got 6 or 7 across the business, from administration, business,
and that
to lawyers.
Is brilliant.
And it's good for them. You know, the lawyers that come through the apprenticeship route, when they qualify between 2 and 6 years later, they are just excellent lawyers.
What incentive do you get for them to be an apprentice? I mean, does the government incentivise you to take on apprentices, or is that the decision of your firm to do that?
So the cost to us is actually quite low. I think it ranges between, I think for a solicitor to go through a 3-year apprentice, so they're graduate solicitors, I think it's cost us £700 over those 3 years.
But so how?
But it actually costs about 17,000 to provide the training. I think the government forks that out.
Yeah, so
our incentive
that to me is a perfect example of exactly what the government...
Well, we've got to give up an employee 1 day a week so that they can study. That to me is the perfect model. Yeah. And I know that they do it now and it's getting better than it was, but for years we weren't doing it, and we should have been ramping that up the day the referendum result came in. We should have said, right, whatever we end up with when it comes to Brexit, whatever kind of Brexit we end up with, we need to now be future planning for... But I think the apprenticeship schemes are excellent. There are so many.
Good.
And I think the government do push them out. And there are specialist recruiters. I use one called Next Step Apprentices down in Brighton, and they always find excellent apprentices for us.
That makes me very happy. I'm glad about that. All right. When we come back, we'll talk more about this, and we might throw in a couple of other stories as well, the 20-mile-per-hour limits, because you have been texting about that quite a lot. So all of that and more live here on Talk TV.